Welcome to today's Explainer. We are jumping right into the life and work of a truly visionary figure, Dr.Amorn Nonthasut. He was a Harvard-educated physician, but he's universally known as the father of Thai village health volunteers. And let me tell you, his grassroots framework didn't just tweak a few existing protocols. No, it fundamentally revolutionized national healthcare in Thailand. Today, we're going to unpack exactly how his sociological theories completely dismantled state dependency and engineered this incredibly powerful model of community empowerment.
Okay, let's dive into this. Health is a matter of the villagers. We are making citizens work for citizens. Now, you hear that and it sounds deceptively simple, right? Almost obvious. But this translated maxim was actually the intellectual spark that set off a massive systemic shift away from top-down bureaucracy. Think about it. In an era where healthcare was exclusively the domain of state experts just handing out aid to passive recipients, this single philosophy came along and completely flipped the entire power dynamic.
So here is our academic roadmap for this explainer. We'll be moving through the public health paradigm shift, the 4 pillars of primary care, the community empowerment framework, innovating quality of life, and finally wrapping up with grassroots wisdom versus big data.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the public health paradigm shift. To really appreciate the magnitude of this framework, we have to put ourselves in the mid-20th century standard of state-driven healthcare. The contrast between these two paradigms is absolutely stark. Deductively, it becomes clear that Dr. Amorn didn't just optimize an old system, he fundamentally redefined the relationship between the state and the individual. The old top-down bureaucracy essentially viewed citizens as passive service receivers, which, let's be honest, just breeds dependency. Community empowerment, on the other hand, transforms those exact same citizens into the active owners of their own health.
So, you might be wondering, where did this radically grounded perspective actually come from? Well, it's a fascinating paradox. Despite having an incredibly elite pedigree, training at Siraj Hospital and Harvard University, it was actually the grueling reality of his 1953 fieldwork combating iodine deficiency in rural villages that catalyzed this bottom-up philosophy. He realized pretty quickly that the real answers were hidden out in the community, not in a clinical lab. He eventually used his WHO's Sasakawa Health Prize funds to establish a foundation in 1987, pioneering localized tools that were so profoundly effective that the Ministry of Public Health literally adopted them as official national policy decades later, in 2016.
Moving right along to Section 2, the 4 pillars of primary care.
And this brilliantly illustrates the academic foundation of his strategy. You've got appropriate technology, meaning tools that villagers can actually use intuitively, not just fancy high-tech gadgets. You have referral systems seamlessly linking villages to hospitals and cross-ministry integration. But without a doubt, the most revolutionary pillar, and definitely the one that faced the most friction from a bureaucracy used to just dictating terms, was people participation.
That brings us to Section 3, the community empowerment framework.
Now, how do you practically build authentic people participation when you're up against a massive system designed to dictate? Well, this leads us to a critical semantic and sociological distinction that Dr. Amorn championed. He was vehemently opposed to hiring community members. He argued that throwing wages at a problem merely creates employees and reinforces that same old dependency. Instead, he was adamant about training volunteers. Why? Because training creates owners. It's proof that authentic community-based development absolutely requires a vested personal stake in the outcome. To formally institutionalize this, he developed what we call the 3K framework. When we translate this taxonomy into academic English, we can see a brilliant strategic choice. He didn't try to build a new system from scratch. For governance, he utilized Kamakan, the existing village committees. For human resources, he tapped into Kamlang Khan, the newly trained village health volunteers. And for capital, it was Kongtun, local funds and grassroots labor. He essentially empowered the cultural assets that were already there, rather than forcing some alien administrative structure onto the villages.
This approach perfectly captures Dr. Amorn's unique definition of innovation. He was entirely focused on process innovation. For him, it wasn't about deploying the latest, shiniest technology. It was about fundamentally changing underlying methods and mentalities. By introducing standardized metrics and tools like strategic route maps, or SLMs, he managed to unify completely disparate community projects under a single, shared goal. And that is how you systematically change community behaviors.
Let's transition to Section 4, Innovating Quality of Life.
2. Just 2. That is the number of years early Dr. Amorn resigned from his pinnacle role as the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Public Health, literally the highest bureaucratic office possible, and he walked away before his retirement. Why would he do that? Because he firmly believed that developing impactful fieldwork and tangible measurement tools down at the grassroots level was vastly more important than just holding on to a prestigious administrative title.
So the crucial point is that he sacrificed that pinnacle position to force a shift in the narrative. He moved the goalposts from health for all, which is frankly a pretty abstract medical concept, to quality of life for all. He championed these basic minimum needs indicators. Suddenly, success wasn't being measured in clinical jargon anymore. It was measured in tangible, everyday metrics like safe housing, clean drinking water, and having an adequate income. This is a massive takeaway even for modern organizations. Abstract policies will always fail if they aren't translated into the daily, lived reality of the people they're supposed to serve.
You must believe that villagers can do it. Never underestimate them. They can be our teachers. That was his core philosophy, through and through. And it wasn't just nice-sounding rhetoric. His real-world laboratory for this exact concept, the Learning Park at An in Chiang Mai, remains a powerful testament to that belief today. In fact, his foundation, currently led by Dr. Wachira Pengjun, is still out there adapting and refining these tools in the field, making sure this empowering spirit stays very much alive.
Which brings us to our final section: grassroots wisdom versus big data.
As we hurtle into the era of Public Health 4.0, where predictive analytics and highly centralized data are increasingly driving our decisions, we are facing a really profound epistemological challenge. Can decentralized, community-based wisdom actually coexist with centralized, top-down AI algorithms? As we chase ultimate efficiency through technology, we really have to pause and answer this. How do we integrate the cold, hard precision of big data with the enduring, transformational power of human, grassroots ownership? That, I believe, is the ultimate challenge ahead of us. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer.